Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 101st episode of the Nobody Asked For This podcast. We officially, excuse me for the chip bag ASMR. I had to get my microphone that I was leaning over to grab. And by microphone, I mean microphone that I bought online during the pandemic to do karaoke. I thought I was going to do karaoke. I kind of was looking for new stimuli at the time. So I thought, this could be fun. So I went on a certain website that shall not be named and got same-day shipping for a microphone. And then probably 2 or 3 years ago, so very shortly after I got the microphone itself, I lost the whole cord. So now I just have the bare microphone. Not bare is not the correct term, but like the microphone without the plug thing to connect it to anything. So it's a non-functional microphone. But it does look like one, and it does the trick for when I'm trying to enact my fancy podcast voice. You know how sometimes when like you talk on the phone to certain people or you're like in person with certain people, like your voice changes? I think that's like a natural human thing. I don't think that that's just me, because I've observed it with people around me, and it's kind of one of those things where like when other people do it, you make fun of them and you call them out and you're like, well, that's inauthentic, but then you do it. It's just a thing. Like I feel like if I'm talking to any sort of like authority, like my voice goes a lot higher, and I'm like, well, maybe if I sort of kind of could do this, that'd be great, but no problem if not, whatever you think's best. Actually, never mind, don't worry about me, don't forget I said anything, goodbye. Like, it's kind of like that. Like, as I'm asking for stuff, my voice gets higher, and as I sort of talk myself down the ledge, it gets lower. All of this to say, the chip crumple bag you heard almost 2 minutes ago was because I reached over to grab my microphone that is not plugged in. Now, in the interest of transparency and honesty, I never actually did karaoke with this microphone. It was part of like probably 4 purchases that I did between March and June of 2020, where I was like, let's just buy it. Like, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Like, let's just spend the money now. So it was my karaoke microphone. I also purchased a very used Nintendo DS. I had a Nintendo DS, but I couldn't find it. So I was like, okay, I could spend the money on like a fancier one. Like I almost bought like, what is that called? A Nintendo Switch. I almost bought one of those because I don't know, that just seemed to be the thing to do. Everyone was doing it. So I said, okay, sure, yeah, I'll spend this money. And then I was like, knowing myself, like I'll never use it, but I will stop at nothing I need to buy something. Like I won't stop until I've purchased something. So I thought, okay, let me spend $50 on a used Nintendo. And I did. And I don't know if I got a full $50 worth of it, but I got probably a good 20. Like I definitely used it. I have not used it since 2020, but I should probably look for it, because then I also bought a bunch of games that were pretty fun. I really feel like I need to get into video games. I don't know why I don't care, but I think I can be made to care, but it's also one of those things where it's like, do I want to care? Because like I don't really watch much TV. If I did, I would talk about it here. I read. I definitely read. I would say that's the thing I do the most. I'm not into like, I don't crochet, in case anyone was wondering. I don't like basket weave. I don't know what I do. I have a lot of those days where you like look at the clock and you're like, oh, that was like 4 hours. What did I do? It's to the point where like if I did watch a TV show, I would feel proud of myself for like, okay, I accomplished something today. Like, yes, I did watch 3 episodes of 90 Day Fiancé, but at least I didn't like just scroll on my phone, which I really think we have to get away from. Now, the irony is I am talking to you into my phone. So without my phone, I would not be able to record the Nobody Asked for This podcast. And then what would people listen to, without the Nobody Asked for This podcast? Because it's obviously very popular. But I'm also, if no one had phones, then how would you listen to the Nobody Asked for This podcast? Well, I guess you could go to Podbean. What's my website? podcast.nobodyaskforthis.podbean.com. No. Is it podcast dot or is it just podcast Nobody Asked for This? Let me double check. I think it's excuse the yawning. Podcast dot nobody asked for this dot podbean.com. That didn't work. Podcast nobody asked for this dot podbean. Maybe I'm not spelling it right. Do I not have a website? Let me see. Maybe podcast dot nobody asked for this. Okay, this is probably correct. Nope. One more to try. Nobody. I'm leaving this whole thing in because it's so intriguing. Nobody asked for this .podbean.com. Okay, here we go. That was the answer. So it's podcast nobody asked for this .podbean.com. Okay, good to know. Regardless, I hope everybody has had a fantastic week. As I was saying before, we officially made it to the 100th episode. Last time you heard from me, I was recording it in a world where there had only been 99 posted episodes of the Nobody Asked for This podcast. So to officially be living and existing in a society where there are 100, it's very exciting. It's extremely exciting. And I'm proud of all of us. We truly did it. And because of all the excitement and the anticipation and all of the, in all of the celebration from the last episode, I got caught up, and I accidentally recorded a 1 and 7 minute long episode. And if I was smart and had any sort of business sense, is it business? Okay, so but you're business savvy, but is the noun for that business sav? Business savvy is the adjective, but what is savvy as a noun? Oh, there's two V's. I like that because it looks like a W. Anyway, the funniest, kind of biggest plot twist of the Nobody Asked for This podcast is with all the talk of me being open about the fact that I can't spell to save my life, or me asking why is this word sound similar to this word? Considering all of that, it is hilarious that I technically have an English degree. And by technically, I mean I have it. Now, I did do, not to bring up, COVID again, but I did do 2 years of my degree online, and I was academically honest, but listen, you just didn't grasp the same type of information the way you would if you were in person. Well, okay, I'll say the way you can if you're in person. I didn't actually mind doing school online. I felt like it gave me a bit of extra time in the day because I didn't have to commute or anything. So I liked that aspect of it, but I just something about Zoom, and especially because I had online classes before the pandemic, but it was not online in the sense that it was Zoom. It was just all of the content was online, and you essentially read chapters of the textbook and then would do random assignments, and then you'd have your exam, and then that would kind of be it. Now, just to be completely honest, for those exams, because the exams were in person, but everything else was online. For those classes, I really sort of checked out, especially some of them, like there weren't even assignments, like it was just a couple exams and like maybe a paper. I really would sort of check into those classes the week of the exams or the week that the papers were due, and like briefly skim over the content and then just do the exam, study what I needed to study, memorize what I needed to memorize, and then that was sort of it. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, and I'm not saying this like I'm proud of it. I actually truly wish I would have maybe put just a touch more effort. I always did. I was not a bad student in that I didn't do my homework. I was just, my methods of like my ways of going about it were not in the pursuit of knowledge. It was like for completion. And there are moments where I regret that in my heart of hearts. All of this to say, Zoom is not for me. Now, it's nothing against, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, but like whatever, no one listens to those episodes anyway, so let's just like kind of recycle some material here. It's nothing against Zoom, the company. It's just the idea of just everyone was on mute. If you ever had to give a presentation on Zoom, it truly felt like you were speaking into a void, because like obviously everyone's on mute. Most people like have their cameras off, so you're really just talking to nothing and no one, even like if people are pretending to listen. And then they would put you in those breakout rooms, and my goodness, no one would say anything. No one would talk. For anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, in Zoom school, usually, or at least in a lot of the classes I would take, because it would be like there'd be like 100, sometimes like 100, maybe even close to 200 people in a class, like potentially. Sometimes it was less than that. But like you'd all be on Zoom listening to a lecture, and then I guess because they wanted to have like an interactive component, they would put us into these things called breakout rooms. So it would just randomly, like, let's say it was 100 students, they would do 20 breakout rooms. Let's see if I can do math. And there would be 5 people in each group? 5 times 20? No. Yeah. Because $20 bills equals $100. So there'd be 5 people in a group. So you would be randomly assigned in a group with 5 of your other students, and it would just out of nowhere, like you'd like transport to that breakout room. And in the process of transporting, a lot of people would leave. Everyone would turn their camera and their mic off. And then it would be like you and maybe 2 or 3 other people. Just now you're just talking together on Zoom as if there's no one else on the call. And then very slowly but surely, this is how it always happened. You'd enter the call, and your screen would tell you like you're in the waiting room for the breakout room, and it's like, is there anything worse than a waiting room? Physical, virtual, like the worst, literally the worst. Everyone's just staring at each other. Great people watching, but the worst. Then your classmates would pop up, and everyone again, microphones off, cameras off, like we're not talking to each other, we're social distancing virtually. And then you'd have to wait for the brave soul that decided like to say hello. So then one person, and for the majority of the time, like a camera was never turned on. It was all like we were just staring at. Like, like old Twitter when everyone was an egg? It was just like the outline of the person. Like when you don't have a profile picture on Facebook. So after at least a good 2 minutes, like not 2 minutes, like 30 seconds, like 2 minutes, 120 seconds. Again, not great at math, but I think that's correct. After that amount of time, someone would unmute and they'd be like, hello. And like, it was always like, do you know the first kind of word or two that someone says after they unmute? Like the mic, for whatever reason, doesn't always like catch it. So it would be like, hello. And you're like, and then there would be a second person that would have to unmute and be like, hi. And they'd be like, so do you guys know what the question was? And then the other person would be like, yeah, I don't really, I have some notes. I feel like, did they want us to like what was the discussion? Did anyone take a picture? And then another person would join and be like, yeah, no, I have a picture of the discussion thing they wanted to talk about us. And then the original person would be like, okay, do you want to share your screen? And they go, okay, share your screen. And there was always at least 1 or 2 people who like you just never heard from. Like they either left the computer, they most realistically had fallen asleep already, And this is university, so it's not like people you know. I feel like high school, like there's a good chance that you know everyone in all of your classes or have at least heard of them, if not have had like one conversation with everybody. But for university, like I haven't seen these people before. We really didn't have much of an interaction during, and I'll probably never see them after. So needless to say, it was quite awkward. And then sometimes like that whole process of someone unmuting never happened, and you would literally just be in an empty room, just like nothing would happen. And then there was this other feature where the organizer of the Zoom, so like just the instructor of the course, could like pop in to different breakout rooms. And I remember one time I was in this breakout room and no one had answered. Like no one's mic was on, no one was talking, and the professor joined the breakout room and everyone's like mic went on. And they were like the instructor was like, hello? We were like, oh, hi, we're just talking about how X equals pi or whatever. I can't exactly remember what class it was. But they're like, okay, and what did you find? And then like, bless this one person who decided to like, just pretended like their own personal thoughts were like the discussed beliefs of the group. And I was more than happy to co-sign with that. Whatever analysis they were willing to share, because yikes. And then this horrible, horrible thing would happen where you would have to come back as a full 100-person class, and then you'd have to assign someone to be the speaker, and they would have to like report back what the group's findings were. And literally 80% of the time it was like luck of the draw, like whoever got chosen as the speaker would have to just pretend that there was a discussion that took place, and then just pretend that everybody was in agreement. It was brutal. I remember one time I was kind of chosen as the speaker. I think this was a class where you had to be the speaker like twice in the semester, and you had to like sign up for it. And of course, knowing me, I didn't really sign up for it, so I just picked the last two it was class number 13 and class number 14 were the ones where I was the speaker, which obviously was because I had forgotten to sign up earlier in the semester, but was kind of a little bit to my benefit, and it gave me a bit of an advantage because by the time you got to the end of the class, like you had been in a breakout room with a lot of the people there, so it was less awkward. There were more like, we're just joining the breakout room with a camera as opposed to doing the 30-minute icebreaker, which is there literally anything worse than an icebreaker game? Yes, there is. It's an icebreaker game over Zoom. Having to talk about like what you did in the summer, what your favorite type of ice cream is. Like those games, I hate it. They make the situation, at least for me personally, icier than ever. It's like a freezer. Anyway, there was one time where I was the speaker for my group. And I was just like jotting down notes because we were probably talking about a book that I didn't read. And then I had to report my findings, and I was just like regurgitating other people's information. And there was like, I do not remember details because this was probably like 4 years ago at this point. Maybe, I have no concept of time, but like, I think this was 2021. So like, 2, 3, 4, almost 3 years ago. But I had to report a finding that I did not understand. And I was just talking, because if there's anything I can do, if I have one gift on this planet, it's just to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it goes well for me, sometimes it doesn't. But I was just pretending. I was like, yes, and then this person believes that Albert said this because he was sad. And it's like, okay, sure. And the professor was like, huh? And I was like, okay, they probably just didn't hear me. So I'm like, well, Albert said this in the novel because he was sad, or whatever point I was saying. And I was getting all these follow-up questions about like, well, what made you think that? And I was like, listen, I didn't think this. I can't remember what I actually said, but I was essentially having to defend someone else's point. And it was in that moment that I decided I could never go to law school because I couldn't defend someone else. And then I kept waiting for the person whose point it was to like unmute. But of course I know no one's name. So I can't be like, I honestly, I would have considered just like throwing the person under the bus and being like, this was Adam. This was Adam's idea talk to Adam about it. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm just the messenger, quite literally. But yeah, those breakout rooms were they were something else. They truly were something else. And let me tell you, by the time we got back to in-person school, I only had 1 semester left. Like, I was almost ready to graduate. I had never done better than that last semester because I was so happy to be like with people. I'm not like introvert. Like, I need to see like a definition. I need to ask what sector of doctor would specialize in introvert extrovert, because whoever that is, they need to explain to me what is what, because I think, at least for me, and probably a lot of people, like, you're not one or the other. Like, I can be extroverted. I in most situations have no problem like talking or, meeting people, introducing myself to people. I'm usually pretty okay with that. But like, if they mess up my order at a restaurant, like, I'm just eating what they bring me. Or like, if I paid for a side of ranch and they didn't give me a side of ranch, well, I guess I'm not getting a side of ranch. Like, I have no ability to be like, ask a question or like even like ask for help. So I don't know where that puts me on the scale of introvert to extrovert. But yeah, long story short, Zoom was wild. And if it taught me anything, it's that if you ever need some sort of like a medical professional or just any professional where in order to do the job, you need to have gone to school and got a degree, I would just make sure that they graduated 2019 or before. I feel like it's probably just like good practice. Like, if I need a lawyer, which I hope to never need a lawyer one day, unless it's for a good reason, like unless it's like I have so much money that I just need a lawyer to help me manage it all. I guess it would more so be an accountant, but you know what I mean. If I ever need, even if I need an accountant, like, did you take your final accounting school exam, on Zoom? Because if so, like, did you have your textbook open? Like, did you memorize the information? Did you like really digest it, or did you just try and pass? And no disrespect if the answer is the latter, like that's what we all did. But like, maybe I would pick someone else who, like, if you're a lawyer, like I would maybe prefer someone who had to like do an in-person version of the bar, because then you probably, didn't have your textbook open. You know what I mean? Like, when you took the MCAT, I don't even know what that is, but when you took the MCAT, did you have your flashcards on your keyboard? I'm going to Google what the MCAT is. I wish you could do a test. Like, they could like hook your brain up to a machine. And I actually think this is the future of exams, and I'm terrified. But I think they should. So I have 2 ideas here for Shark Tank. First idea, there should be a test that you can, like, again, do some sort of like either a Bluetooth connection or like wired, where they can connect your brain to a machine and it can tell you like how many, like what percentage of concepts or terms that like, can you not explain? Does that make sense? Like, I feel like, perfect example, like I know what the MCAT is, but like I can't explain that to you. So I would like to know, like, what percent of the thoughts in my head, like, can I not back up, essentially? So basically, like, how full of are you? So that's the first idea. Second idea, and like I said before, I don't want this one to happen, but I think we're headed there. I think you're not going to have to take exams anymore. You're just going to have to do like some sort of a brain scan, and they're going to see how much of the information you actually have in your brain. Now, why I think this is a good idea is it would force you to actually have to learn the content. Why I think this is a bad idea is it would force you to actually have to learn the content. So for any of the future students out there, you couldn't like cram, like you would actually have to like know and understand. So essentially the machine or technology or like patent or whatever from idea 1 could be applied in idea 2, because it's really just like a brain search for like how much you don't know. versus a brain search for how much you do know. So I think that we could probably just get like, and originally the idea was like have one group of scientists focus on idea one, and then the second group of scientists focus on idea two. But we really could, in the initial phases, have a larger group of scientists focus on both. And then like we could do like what's the opposite of a merge? A split. Okay, what is it? You know how when you're on the freeway, there's the exit. Like I'm exit number 12 or whatever. What's it called? Like, what is the entrance of a freeway called? Like the ramp thing that you get on. Like, what is that called? What is the opposite? This is me Googling if you didn't know. What is the opposite of a freeway exit? Let's see. No. Okay. I didn't word that correctly. Like freeway entrance. Like, do you still call it an exit? A merge? I don't know. Because, like, they're never called, like, they're called, like, you get off at exit number this, but, like, it's never, like, get on at entrance number that. I do not know. Also, there was a mid-show update about the microphone. I now, on the microphone that I bought 4 years ago to do karaoke, never did, and then now use as a podcast microphone that is not plugged in because I just record everything in the voice memo apps of my phone. That exact microphone has a asparagus tag over, or not tag, but a rubber band. You know how when you buy asparagus, it is in usually a blue rubber band, at least where I'm at. I found that rubber band mid recording of this episode, and it's now on my microphone. And it looks pretty cool. So I just really felt like sharing that. This has been probably one of the most random episodes of the Nobody Asked This podcast. I think I technically never, like, even started the show, technically. Like, I feel like I normally in the beginning will do, like, I'll explain where I'm at, like, where I'm recording, what the weather was like that day. Like, I do a pretty thorough intro just to get everyone caught up to speed. And I didn't do that, so I apologize. I've been having some Okay, actually, you know what? I'm not going to finish that sentence because I'm too much of a hypochondriac to be putting out information via podcast, and then, God forbid, anyone report back and be like, yeah, that's a sign of, early stages of this or that. Like, I just can't with the Googling. I feel like it's never good news. And, like, okay, I don't want to say it, like, knock on wood. I'm not even going to say it. But, like, everything I've Googled, even if it's told me it's bad, like, here I am. You know what I mean? So I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to believe. I'm starting to think, like, maybe we shouldn't believe everything we read on the internet. And, like, I obviously knew that, but, like maybe you really shouldn't. Like, have you ever thought of that? Wikipedia, for some reason, I trust with my life. I know that is, I don't even know if that is, like, controversial. Like, I think most people agree with Wikipedia, and they make it seem like, oh, it's so easy to change. I actually think, and I believe this in my core, like, Wikipedia is, like, where humans go to help each other. I feel like there is some sort of, like, not an honor code, but, like, I really haven't been on Wikipedia and seen anything wild recently. And I've seen, like, this. I'm not saying, like, people are cured and, like, nothing wild happens, because a lot of wild things happen, but it never on Wikipedia. Like, I feel like it's pretty accurate, and that's really nice of everyone, for, like, all the Wikipedia editors, because I don't think it's, like, an actual company. Like, I don't think you can technically work for Wikipedia. I mean, someone must, keep the website afloat or whatever. But like for the most part, it's just edited by people. And I don't really, I spend a fair amount of time on Wikipedia. There was a time where my favorite pastime was to get from one Wikipedia page to another using only like the links. Like, do you know on Wikipedia when there's like a separate article for something, the text is blue. And this, I didn't make up this game. This is a game that people do. But like you have to click on all of them until you get to like one page. So let's say you want to go from the Wikipedia page for football, like the game of football, and you want to end on the Wikipedia page for Tupperware. Like you have to click on all like the blue links till you get to Tupperware. It's actually a really fun game. I actually might go play it now because why not? But my point was I feel like Wikipedia is pretty accurate, and that is a representation of people trying to help each other. I mean, who hasn't used Wikipedia as their main resource for a paper? Or like some sort of an assignment, or even some sort of something, just a quick Google search. So, it's not all bad. We still have Wikipedia. And for that, I am grateful. And with that, I will leave you here until next week. As was figured out at the beginning of the show, you can go to podcastnobodyaskforthis.podbean.com to reach the show's website. On there, you can find links to our Apple Podcast, our Spotify, Amazon Podcast, a couple other things. You can also just listen to the episodes straight on there. We also have a YouTube that is in that website, and then just the description of this podcast. If you're hearing this, then I guess you don't need to know how to find it because it means you already did. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a very pleasant week, great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.